Hey there and welcome to another episode of Seenu. It's been a little while since the last episode, holidays and all that. I think I covered that in the previous episode. But we're back, and this is going to be an interesting episode because we're going to be building the last, brand new village in this whole atoll. And, there's a whole bunch of things that I wanted to talk about, but we're going to begin by doing just a very quick maintenance on the runway by the airport. You see, Vasmer 22, who's been putting out pretty much the best airplane or airport-related assets, actually airport-related assets, it's more accurate, up on the workshop. He recently, my request, put out some new runway markings because these ones, the ones that you're looking at on the screen, are kind of glitchy, especially when you zoom out. They're not that great, and I try to improvise by duplicating them. Like the scale is all wrong, even the numbers and everything else. So I got rid of all of those pretty much. And at the same time, there was an upgrade to the ploppable asphalt. So now we have bigger ploppable asphalts, which means that I can, optimize our prop count a bit. If you look to that table of numbers to the left of the screen, you can see the last number in yellow, the one that says 62,713, is the number of props that we currently have in the map, and I managed to free up a good chunk of them. I'm still not going to use the prop unlimited mod. I've made that decision. I think we can make it without that. And what you see me do here is basically use his runway markings. I did put a street, just a concrete street, next to the location of each one of those, mainly so that I knew, the distance between, because I did measure all of this back then when I created the airport the first time. So, didn't want to do the calculations again, and it was just easy to put down streets right next to them and relocate them. I know they're not perfect in terms of I think they need now looking back, I think they needed to be a little bit more spread out, especially the aiming marks and the touchdown marks and all those closer to the edges of the runway. At the same time, I know that the runway itself is not perfectly symmetrical. It will be a lot of work fixing that at this point, so I decided to just leave it be. And things in the real world are not that symmetrical either, so just you can actually see it right there. Like one side, it's definitely wider than the other. I don't know why I didn't pick up, that detail when I was working on it, but what's done, it's done. And when you look at it from farther away, it just looks great. The cool thing actually about these runway markings is that they do have a pretty decent LOD. In fact, their LOD is literally the same as their main model. So if you zoom out, you see perfect rectangles. Which to me was a big plus because the previous markings that I had, they were very glitchy LODs. In fact, I'm pretty sure the LODs that were baked into those assets were the ones that the game generates when you import a model without custom LOD, which they don't look great at all. In fact, trees pretty much have that sort of treatment. I think that the system is different, but the result is pretty ugly, and there's no way to upload custom LODs for trees. Unfortunately, that's why all trees look horrible when you look at it from far away. And one thing I didn't talk about, I did talk about it, but I didn't revisit the topic, is the trees LOD. I mentioned that I think after one of the updates, whatever the latest update was, I don't know, like Green Cities or something like that, I noticed that the LOD radius was shorter, and I tweeted to the Cities Skylines account, and they told me that no, there was no change in that, but that's not what everyone believes. Obviously we don't have any scientific way of proving this, but the trees looks significantly worse now. Just the radius, you're able to see trees in full detail farther away before, but I don't know if that's what we just feel like or if it's actually a fact. But yeah, unfortunately, that's what it is, and there isn't much we can do about it. So I guess we'll have to deal with that. But yeah, so you can see here, adding arrows, adding all the touchstone markings, the beginning of the runway, all of that, pretty much where it was. And another thing that I noticed is these palm trees that basically when I made the map, I just shipped just trees in it using those palm trees that. I was later told, and it makes total sense now that I'm, looking at it years in the future, that those palm trees are actually from the desert, not from like tropical areas. So I decided to use what's the name of the tree replacer mod? Oh, I can't remember the name of it. It's been so long since I played Cities Skylines. It's been like over 2 months for me, even though the last video wasn't that long ago. But yeah, I basically replaced all of the palm trees with a new set of trees. And in just a few minutes, I'm gonna replace another, the shady bush thing with another better looking tree. In fact, the oak, which I know the oak is totally not the right climate for this map, but I just think it looks great. It's a great contrast and shade of green compared to all the other trees that we have here. In fact, the main tree that I use everywhere, that dark tree that I can't remember the name because it's too complicated, I don't think that one is also like pretty region accurate, but sometimes you just have to go with whatever fits your design better and not necessarily be super accurate. This happens in Hollywood all the time in movies. There's this great Simpsons gag where they're painting horses as cows because cows don't look like cows. That is literally what I'm trying to talk about here. And that's very true. They usually, I mean, I'm not saying that they paint horses as cows, but they do, fake things because if they use a real thing in a video, it wouldn't look as good as it could be for telling a story. In a way, we're actually kind of telling a story here, even though we're building a scene. But I'm going at a weird tangent, and I wasn't prepared on talking about this. So let me switch back to what I am doing. So we're working on the farthest of the islands. It's probably the second biggest island, this one, but is also the less populated one. So I started with a simple, road layout, a grid for the most part, but then it starts branching out into this area that I'm showing you on the camera right now, which will become farmlands, very simple farms actually. That's not going to be done in this episode, but there will be some farms nearby that will make it in this cut. And I kind of run out of hard drive space just at the end of the time lapse, so there's a few little things that won't be shown on the time lapse, but there will be shown in the cinematics at the end, so stay tuned for that. Nothing crazy that you haven't seen before, just a few more farms and definitely more frugal configurations. Well, what I mean by that is, since we're still pretty much on the limit of props, I'm trying to keep things pretty simple and straightforward. So as you can see here, I'm working on these fences, and I immediately realized that I won't be able to use props for fences as I've been doing so far, because I just won't have enough number of props. And instead of just doing what I did before, which is deleting the core, the center of each one of these blocks, what I decided to do is started using bushes, because we do have the unlimited tree mod, so we can put as many trees as we want. We're like way over the limit at this point, but it works great, and they're actually slightly less poly intensive, so frame rate, it doesn't tank so much, even though at this point I don't care anymore, because frame rate in general, it's like an average of 10 FPS, unless you're looking down with, gets you an average of 20 FPS, something like that. Everything that you see, I get this question all the time, well, like, what computer are you using, because it works so fast? It doesn't work fast. I just speed up all in post, so the magic of movie making makes it look battery smooth. But yeah, I'm using this simple design here, as I was saying. You can see that I'm like, for the most part, copying and pasting the same design over and over again, using a few more fences here and there just to break the repetitiveness of the neighborhoods, and just trying to mix it up a bit so that they don't look all exactly the same. But for the most part, I think it came out great. You're gonna see some very detailed close-up shots from the cinematics. I try to keep my goal here was to not fill it with trees everywhere, as I did in the other islands. I wanted to keep this design a little bit more sparse for no particular reason, just to have some variety of neighborhoods. In my mind, this whole island is a little bit more recently developed. It's not as old as the other ones, so I figured they just did some leveling of the ground and they just cut down a lot of trees, and not many of them have regrown. So for the most part, it's still pretty sparse compared to like what you're looking at right now. By the way, that thing I did there is copying and pasting the same 6-7 houses that I use everywhere, and just put them down in one block there, and then do some more copying and pasting, just replacing some fences where we don't need them. Every single prop counts, so at this point I feel like I'm spending a lot of time just doing that. Sometimes it's easier to just use the actual game as your palette of elements instead of just using the menus. If you're using the same thing over and over again, I highly recommend you just put it down on the ground and then just use Move It to copy and paste. It's just much easier that way. Now, talking about the future of this series. So in about like a month from now, or actually less than a month from now, Seenu will turn 1 year old, and it's I don't know how to put it, but basically I don't want this to go beyond 1 year, which means that I've been saying a lot that I didn't want to rush this, but at this point I feel like I'm going to, just a little bit. If I can avoid it, I will. I didn't rush this episode, certainly, because it took me like 2 days to put it together, and I try to make it as detailed as possible without going crazy with props, but I am trying to get this wrapped up because I don't want to go over a year. I think that's a nice big grand milestone. And on the other hand, we're like almost done here. There's only like 3-4 big projects that I want to tackle. And by big projects, I mean like things that I can do in one episode. The biggest worry that I have right now is whether or not I can sync schedules with Flux, because so far it's been not possible. He's been really busy, and I left the country for like a month, and that didn't help either. So I'm really hoping that he can finish his work on the resort. If not, I'll probably do that. I haven't decided yet. I haven't talked to him yet either, but we'll try to figure something out. And if that doesn't work out, don't worry, we're still gonna do some collaborations. We're like already talking about doing some things. And the same with Biskugelhausen. He was supposed to do a guest episode, but at this point I feel like it's just not gonna happen, unfortunately. Simply because, just timing. It's impossible. He has a really hectic schedule. He's flying all the time. But on the bright side, he already contributed some elements to the game, to this project, particularly with the introduction of the fly Seenu plane. So it's not like he didn't do anything here. I just wish that he'd be able to do a bit more. But that's just what happens. Again, I'm sure we got to figure something out in the near future that we can all do some collab with. But so I definitely want to finish this before the year. The year is before 1 year has passed since the first episode. That's kind of what I'm saying. By the way, one thing that I didn't mention at the beginning is that I noticed that most of the people who watch this series haven't seen a short video that I put out showcasing Seenu in detail. It's not like the on the road thing I did like forever ago. This is like a full 3 minutes of very eye candy cinematics. So if you haven't seen that, I'm gonna include the link in the description, and it's probably popping up on the top right corner of your screen. So you should check that out. It's pretty good looking and straightforward, and you're not being spoiled anything by watching this episode, so you can watch it later. But I should have mentioned that at the beginning of the episode. So this island that I'm working on right here, after I'm done, the next thing that needs to be done pretty much is after I'm finished with this episode, the next thing that needs to be done is just work on some of the farms on one corner of the island. I didn't want to make everything like a big forest because that's like the easy way out. Just make everything a forest and it just looks nice, but it doesn't have any detail. So I'm gonna try to work on those farms and maybe get like some like hiking trails kind of thing. I'm not entirely sure if I'm gonna be able to pull it off because I like to, it's easy to just put down some pedestrian roads and whatnot, but then they're not that detailed. I'm trying to like come up with some level of detail here that would be a bit more interesting than me just putting down some hiking trails without anything else on them. But prop count and all, I think I can pull it off. But that's sort of what I'm planning for this area, and then we'll call this whole section of the map done. The remaining parts are the convention center, which I requested help with that model since episode 1, and it's quite a bit of work, and no one has had the time nor the incentive to actually get it done for me, and obviously I didn't have the time to put it together. So I'm gonna try to find a replacement building for that. It could be a convention center, it could be something else. I just want a big warehouse-like building in that area. I'm just gonna landscape all around it. And then the last part, aside from Flux Resort, will be a big nature trail park thing on the first island that we started working on, the biggest of them all. And that's pretty much it. So, we're like a good 3-4 episodes from completing this project, which is exciting. And on that note, I'm always asked, hey, what are you going to do next? Are you going to do another Cities Skylines series? Well, the short answer is yes. So far, yes, I'm planning on doing that. I have some ideas on what I'm going to be doing. Actually, I'm pretty certain of what I'm going to be doing at this point. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you because that will be spoiling everything. But it's going to be a different format, and I actually at this point I don't want to reveal too much about it because I'm still trying to like find assets and do some research on it and play with the new whatever the new things are. Because one issue that I have with Seenu at this point is it's getting a little bit boring for me, just mildly, because I see all these screenshots from other people doing really awesome things, and they're obviously using a lot more brand new resources that I don't have access to. Even though I could just simply add more to the collection and try them. But the problem is, if I keep adding more new things to this, then the neighborhoods will start looking very differently. And, all these are part of the same ecosystem, the same biome. So I don't want to introduce a new set of trees that are only visible on just the one island, whatever the latest island I'm working on is. And if I want to really introduce it, I should probably go back to all the other islands and do some maintenance there at the new type of tree, for example, and get rid of some other trees, or just a lot of work for not a lot of payoff, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I'm trying to not add new elements into the collection unless there's like an amazing new thing that I need to try, or a mod that I could use. But for the most part, try to keep things simple. Don't want to retrofit all neighborhoods, as if I can't avoid it, except for that airport thing that I did today. He made that on request, and I thought, hey, this is a cool idea. Let's just retrofit the airport a bit to fix it, because it was driving me crazy. All those like glitchy LODs, man. Yeah. So I got totally off topic there. So what I'm doing here really quickly is just adding a port. I need to be able to have people come into the city. I didn't want to do like a crazy, jetty with like the breakwater rocks and all of that as I did in previous builds. You've seen that already like 5 times, so I'm not going to do the same design. I'm trying to, make it really simple port, have some sheds, obviously I'm adding props because there's no way otherwise to decorate this, putting some boats that I wish I could have added a lot more boats, but again, prop count, Okay, I keep, it's like a recurrent thing in this episode. Trust me, I won't say it anymore, for at least for this for this video. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with how this one came out. I think, obviously the initial plans for Seenu were significantly more ambitious than what it's going to end up looking like. Actually, not that ambitious. I accomplished pretty much everything that I wanted to do, except some of these areas I was just picturing them like way more detailed than they are. But aside from that, I'm pretty happy. I think this was an interesting project. And another thing that I wanted to mention before I go, the cinematics are already kind of creeping in. I've been thinking of doing another vlog video. I did one last year for my trip to London to cover the Frontier Expo, and I figured it would be a nice way to talk about future things in the channel. So let me know if you're interested in seeing another vlog type thing with more real life footage in the comment section. And yeah, I'll if that goes well, I'll probably talk more in detail what I'm thinking for the next projects, not just Cities Skylines, but all the other games that I play in this channel as well. So yeah, last touches here, just adding a power facility. That little box, it's amazing. It puts out 160 megawatts of power, which pretty much covers an entire neighborhood and a little bit more, and I use it everywhere. So just connecting that to the grid and putting down some water towers, even though the pipelines are all connected to the main line, which made it so I didn't have to put down any sewer facilities in this area of the map. But as the music plays in the background, I would like to point your attention quickly to one of the sides of the island where you see all those empty plots. Those will become proper farms, maybe in the next episode, maybe in the one after. Haven't made the decision yet. But if you enjoyed this episode though, please consider giving this video a like. That's very much appreciated. And also, if you're new to the channel and haven't already, I would like to encourage you to click subscribe. That way you're notified after one of my videos comes out. But that's pretty much all for now. I want to thank you for watching and hope to see you in the next one.